All right, so if 88 was the foundation for rap, what was 1994? Lock in, it's Grown Man Bars, y'all. What's good, y'all? I'm your man, Chad, and that man next to me is so tough he beat Gravity in a 7-game series. Big Absoloot, what's buzzing, cousin? If you watched last week, and you should, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe, because we really like it when you like it and subscribe. And that helps the channel out a lot, so we can keep doing this, and we can celebrate with y'all. Because what we like to do is celebrate a great era. A little bit of nostalgia so we can remember how dope our high school years were. Well, at least music-wise.
That part. Pretty dope outside of music, too. But, you know what I'm saying? Good house party. What?
We told y'all that 88 laid the foundation with just a gang of Hall of Fame albums. Just nothing but Hall of Fame albums in 88. It made so much noise, the Grammys finally started giving a Grammy for rap in 1989. A little bit of an issue around that too, but we talked about that. Go back to that episode. What I want to talk about tonight, and B.A. wants to talk about, because I know he loves this year too, is after we had 88, the next big year we can talk about is 1994. Now, I'm going to set you up here. 1994 was fun because we started to see, I guess, the next generation of MCs. 88 that we talked about last year, those are the ones, they inspired these guys that came out in 1994. There are a few debut albums, but I kind of just want to set up. In 88, we said we had the kind of the start of a lot of things. You know, B.A. mentioned NWA and gangster rap. Then on the other side of that coin, like B.A. said last week, you had It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. They're making the same amount of noise, but in a different way, in a more political way. So you have people who were inspired to do political rap, people who were inspired to do gangster rap. Rakim and Follow the Leader, he brought out lyricism. So you had all these lyricists that were coming out. You know, Slick Rick was that year in 88 with The Art of Storytelling. MC Light with Light as a Rock for female MCs. Like, there were so many things that let other artists know that they could pursue this. And to me, that's why 1994 became that year. It's another one of those years we remember because of the masterpieces that came out that year. The Source started getting really big then. Biggie became a household name. MTV and BET made rap mainstream TV. Videos were on heavy rotation, not just the old late night slots. Yo MTV Rap, the Basement started coming in. The Grammys had more rap categories. And for the first time in 1994, rap singles were alongside pop and R&B songs on the top 40 Billboard list. Rap started to go global. It started moving into European and Asian markets. Here's a little tidbit for those of y'all don't know. As rap has spread all over the world, like now it's very big in the Middle East. Do you know who is responsible for helping spread rap? U.S. military soldiers. That's right. I saw that last week. Every time we deploy.
What? You went nowhere without music. Nowhere.
Hey, look, when we deploy, we still have little stores on our bases, and they still bring in music. Now, you might get the new Locks album a month after it came out, but
It's new over there.
You've been listening to the same album. You've been listening to their last album the whole 2 months you've been there to begin with.
It's new over there. That's all.
Anyway.
You the hotness. You hot in the streets in Bahrain.
For real. Let me run through just some of the top albums that came out in 1994. Obviously, Nas, Illmatic. I don't need to say anything else about that. If you need me to say something about that, you on the wrong channel.
Yeah, you should find a new channel. And I don't want to lose followers, viewers by any means, but if that topic needs an explanation, hey, we'll catch you on down the road.
Same with the next one. This one needs so little explanation. We have rarely ever even mentioned this album, but no, the notorious Big Ready to Die. Nothing needs to be said about Ready to Die. Outkast, Southernplayalistic Cadillac Music. Nothing needs to be said
about that either.
But I'm still gonna say it. That was some dope ass Southern rap right there. That Method Man went solo for the first time, so his debut solo with Tikal and the Mary J. Blige joint. Common, Resurrection, probably one of my favorite Common albums.
Great album, highly slept on.
Warren G, Regulate, G-Funk era. So You remember how we talk about funk is running all through hip hop? Well, it's still running. Now it's running on the West Coast, and the West Coast is going to do their version of it for probably about a decade, and it's going to dominate for about a decade. It's going to dominate for about a decade after 1994. The Gravediggers, 6 Feet Deep. If you're a fan of horrorcore, which I wasn't, but I was still a fan of the Gravediggers because the production, as always, was spot on. Another big album that came out that year, Da Brat, Funkdafied. I know BA is a big fan of Da Brat Attack.
I'm excited. I'm excited that this topic is up, and this is one of the things I'm probably going to touch on a little later in the show because a lot happened here. Like, even Atlanta didn't really realize what happened here. Even though the Brat from the Chi, Atlanta didn't realize what happened here. We'll talk about it.
And we're talking about first. There was a first with this album. I believe you've known this bit of trivia. What was the first that happened with Funkdafied?
I believe the answer is first female rapper to go platinum with an album. Now, we talk about a lot of females in the GOAT category. Well-deserved, all lyricists, well-deserved. But until Funkdafied, none of them went platinum. A couple of them went gold. Ain't nobody went platinum.
And before I give you the last one, remember in '88 how we talked about MC Lyte and with the debut album amongst all those monster albums and still making it happen? Funkdafied still went platinum with all those albums that I just named.
I actually want you to fact check me. It actually didn't just go platinum amongst these albums. It was the first one of these albums to go platinum, followed by Warren G. We'll talk.
All right, and the last one, you know I love, Gangstar, Hard to Earn, Guru and Premier in top form with mass appeal. That's for the hip hop heads. You don't expect that one to get a lot of record sales because you know that the true hip hop doesn't get sales like that.
You gotta love Gangstar though. Guru was just something different.
I say this a lot, y'all, and I want y'all to understand when I talk about I understand that hip hop is a cultural revolution, not a movement. A movement only goes a certain distance and then it stops. A revolution keeps going around. That's why I call it.
You know, I heard a rapper say that once in a song. I wonder who that guy was. He was pretty dope.
Yeah, I say that about hip hop, but when I talk about rap music itself, there's some music that I call rap music, some guys I call rappers, and then some music I call hip hop music. Because some music is very hip hop. Like another album that came out this year that we'll talk about later is Jeru the Damager. That album was very hip hop.
Yes.
It was a very hip hop album. It still had connections to the boom bap sound. And it just still had the old grimy cymbals and horns and everything in it that had that old school hip hop feel. So I always think there's a difference between hip hop artists and rapper.
Was Jeru the Damager? Was he 94's version of Lupe Fiasco? Think about it. Let it move on you.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Think about it. Let it move on you.
So after all of that, here are a couple of other things just to give you things that started happening in 1994 because of rap music. Fashion and style. Let me say a few names for y'all. Cross Colors, Timberlands, starter jackets, and the starter hat. This is when, like, B.A. had talked about Grand Poobah in the late 80s doing this, and then Big Daddy Kane still dresses like a G. Every time you see I pull up pictures of him to put in our videos, he still dresses like Stringer Bell. That dude still dresses like a G. But in 94, this is when we started bringing in the baggy jeans that our parents hated so much, and the sagging with the Timbos and the starter jacket.
And the starter jackets.
And the hat, everything, you color, you got to coordinate.
They had to coordinate.
But the butter Tims matched everything, so you were good on that until somebody scuffed them and you had to get the little eraser out.
Yep, had to go and get that little scuff up out of there.
But hip hop was doing that. Hip hop was influencing fashion and culture. Even like this is a couple of years later, but Tupac got approached by Versace. That's how big hip hop is going to get in the next 2 to 3 years, as far as fashion goes. Movies and soundtracks. Hip hop started appearing on all kinds of movies and soundtracks, and the Above the Rim soundtrack, it's a hard one to find these days. A physical copy of it, because if you're our age, you still like having physical copies of shit. because, having all my music on my phone it's convenient and all, but I still like having a shelf of music, that I could touch. And it's hard to find one of those, but that was one dope soundtrack, Above the Rim. And it had that one
Bottom.
It had that one
Talk
feature, Pour Out a Little Liquor. There was only a release on that album.
Oh, yeah, Pour Out a Little Liquor.
Just a few more things, and then I'm going to turn it over to B.A. for the absolute truth. This was quality over quantity. Have a ton of albums come out in 94. They did, but not like a ton of huge albums come out. But almost every coast had a classic album drop. The South had Southern Cadillac Playalistic Music. New York had Illmatic and Ready to Die. The West Coast had Warren G breaking out G-Funk. Everybody had a classic. You had a conscious classic with Guru and Premier. The wealth was spread around so that everybody who loved hip-hop, in whatever corner you were in, you had something to hang on to. And this is something that I mentioned earlier that I love so much about this. This was kind of a generational handoff. This was kind of all those guys passing the baton. They didn't give it up because rappers don't have to retire. You can rap as long as you want to rap. Rakim is still destroying every microphone he gets on.
Destroying it.
They were passing this along to, Rakim passing a baton to Nas is just something special to me, man. And that's why I like this year. So let me turn it over to you for the absolute truth, and you tell me what was really good with these albums.
All I can think about is that Dave Chappelle skit, right? He made Thriller. 94 gave you Illmatic. This isn't a segment about Illmatic. There's no need to talk about it, but I will talk about it in this sense. Illmatic and Ready to Die came out in the same year from the same city, and one of them didn't really get heard for 5 months. Now let's move on. Now let's keep it pushing. Everybody knows how B.A. feels about Def Jam, and if you know me, you know why I have this heartfelt, almost I will fight you over the machine known as Def Jam because of its contributions to the culture.
He will fight you. I saw him fight a 13-year-old one time.
94 gave us something special. Illmatic is something we don't ever need to discuss, but Illmatic was so good, people forgot about, well, not really forgot about. People didn't really pay attention to, better word, Ready to Die for a few months. But that's not really what I want to talk about, New York. But in 1994, Def Jam needed a lifeline, and it did not look to New York to save it. It looked out west. It took a trip to Cali. Signed a young man by the name of Warren Griffin III, better known as Warren G. Warren G was a guy who had an opportunity, Death Row's popping, got an opportunity to do what his stepbrother Dre is into, his best friend Snoop and Nate, all of them are with the Row, but that's not the way he goes. He rolls the dice on himself, he signs with Def Jam, and this signing, once said by a Def Jam exec, was one of the greatest signings we did in the past 10 years because without it, we could have really been in trouble. 1994, Regulate, the G-Funk era was introduced to the world. Number 2, top Billboard Hot 100. Platinum certified, 2 Grammy nominations. Regulators changed the game, and that's family right there, says Snoop Dogg. Warren G did something that most people could not do, and he brought New York to LA and won. Shout out, salute G-Funk era, Warren G. That's your boy B.A. That's the absolute truth.
Hey, for real, man, Regulators is that song that crosses every boundary it can possibly cross when it comes to our generation. When you hear that come on, it doesn't matter, white, black, Latino, Asian, whatever you are, if you are of our generation and that song comes on, everybody does that.
Somebody hollers Regulator and nobody hollers Mount Up, you should leave that room because you are in a space that is not healthy for you. It just means you're generally around people you don't need to be around because they suck.
We're damn good too.
If you don't know the movie quote, don't talk to me. If you don't know what movie they came from, if you don't know who said it, if you don't know the quote, you too young to be for this conversation. This here ain't for you.
That was also not someone whistling on the track. That was synthetically done by Warren G.
Correct.
What about the other ones, man? What about the Brat? Tell me a little bit about the Brat Tat.
The Brat Tat. Look, first of all, we get lost in the sauce when it comes to the Brat. We talk about female hip hop like the Brat didn't exist just because she was signed to So Def. Please don't get it twisted with what Jermaine Dupri was able to do with Criss Cross, and then much later with Bow Wow. And a lot of people don't give Jermaine his flowers. Fast forward, the Brat gets introduced to us as a little girl, but she's not. She's just short in stature. She is really way more mature, but she played the role. But the bars, always undeniable. So to be the first is always something big, and we give men a lot of credit when they're the first. Last episode, if you paid attention, we talked about Will Smith being the first hip hop album to get nominated for a Grammy and actually win the award. So why isn't the first platinum female artist more celebrated? Or most importantly, not just celebrated, why isn't it known? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge accomplishment. Shout out to the Brat Tat Tat.
That's what I'm talking about. Anything else on there really jump out at you, man?
And really the only, there's several, right? I don't want to get locked in with Ready to Die and some of the other things, but you did touch on something that also hit hard in 94, which was Method Man's solo project. The Wu was already a whirlwind pyramid. It was already something, and it was funny when you were like crossing genres, because the Wu gravitated to Japan and Asia quickly. It's a martial art, it's a Shaolin reference, a lot of things. They call themselves the Shaolin Temple, like a lot of martial art flicks influence. But this solo project, if it's safe to say, didn't sound like the Wu-Tang records. They were produced the same. They were produced by the same people. A lot of the features were with the same people. But this was like a something inside of us something. Method gave us something that we weren't ready for.
When he came out with this solo project, I think a lot of people who maybe like me didn't gravitate to Wu-Tang when they were a group necessarily. It just wasn't my thing. When this came out, I started to go, okay, maybe I do need to pay more attention to these guys as individuals,
right,
instead of them as a group.
And I'm right there with you.
That's what this did.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That's exactly how I got back to the 36 Chambers, to be honest.
Let me switch it up and move over to the lyrical autopsy. This time, I'm taking on a song from 98, Aquemini, and I want to look at Andre's last verse.
Oh.
Now, it's a short verse, and everybody's seen TikTok. This thing rolls around TikTok like every 3 months. Everybody will know this verse when I go around it. But there's one particular technique that Andre used, that a lot of rappers use, but he used it in a different way. And I just want to explain that to y'all to kind of show y'all the genius in what Andre did. So the verse was, and excuse me, I'm not going to try to do it like Andre. My mind warps and bends, floats the wind, count to 10, meet the twin, Andre Ben, welcome to the lion's den. Original skin, many men comprehend, I extend myself so you go out and tell a friend. Sin all depends on what you believing in, faith is what you make it, that's the hardest shit since MC Ren. Alien can blend right on in, which you can. Look again, cause I swear I spot one every now and then. It's happening again, wish I could tell you when. Andre, this is Andre, y'all is just gonna have to make them in. But the technique, I'm gonna get to this real quick. The technique that I know BA will appreciate, and I hope y'all appreciate, because the technical name for it, just so I can be a nerd here, is called phonic echoing. He's not just using internal rhyme where he's putting the sound that goes at the end of a bar somewhere in the middle. He's doing phonetic echoing, which is basically like sound memory. So he can make it melodic. So he goes with, welcome to the lion's den, original skin, many men comprehend, I extend myself so you go out and tell a friend. That I extend myself so you go out and tell a friend, that's a break for you to catch up to what he's doing. And he does it again when he says, look again, cause I swear I spot one every now and then. In that same spot, he will hit you with a bunch of those sounds, a bunch of those rhymes, and then give you a break to digest what he's saying. You are flexing your muscle, but backing it off just to give them enough room to appreciate what you did. You're letting it breathe. But I just wanted to show y'all that technique of how André used it in that verse that is almost universal for him, weaving in and out of that sound to use his words to add to the instrumental that's already playing, but giving you the breaks to be able to catch what he's saying so that he's not overwhelming you. And that's genius level technique. That is a lyrical autopsy from the barbershop.
Healthy.
We gonna move on to a little segment I like to call Talking That Shit. Because you know when you in the barbershop, sometimes people say real stuff, sometimes people say crazy shit, and y'all have to argue about it for a little while. Well, I got a crazy ass question, one that I just like to ask. There is probably no right answer to this question, but B.A., I'm gonna make you start, because I'm actually talking right now. Which album had the bigger impact in 1994, Nas's Illmatic or Biggie's Ready to Die?
Literally, unless you're about to hit me with a rock and roll album, Nas. There was no bigger impact in Illmatic. Now, to the culture, there was no bigger impact in 1994 than Nas's Illmatic. To New York, I believe Ready to Die gave New York something they did not have yet. Everything that once was will be again. That's old people logic. Biggie Smalls is a one of one. Ready to Die is always in the conversation of a great hip hop album. And it's always in the conversation of one of Biggie's best albums. It's always in the conversation of the top hip hop album, but never the one spot. When people talk about your first album and no one ever says it deserves to be lower than 3, you have something there. You just do. When people don't argue if you're 1, they argue, well, what in the hell is wrong with the person who decided to make you 2 or 3?
When there's a 7-year period after your album drops that people are afraid to say there's another album better than that, you got something going on.
You got something. But you did have the woo still happening. We had a happy hangover from It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. We had a happy hangover where we started to get conscious rap out of the East Coast with the self-destruction movement, X-Clan, Jeru the Damager, Poor Righteous Teachers. Like, we had a nice pocket of amazing music. And then we heard, and it changed everything again. So for me, I think the biggest overall impact to the culture, you're hard pressed to find anything more than Illmatic for the entire culture in that year. I'm just speaking on what made me start listening to more New York music. Nas could have been from Neptune. I would have listened to Illmatic, but it was really Ready to Die that I was like, it was all a dream, dude. This right here is jumping. Like this dude right here is spitting. So that's for me. What about you?
I'm gonna steal something from you, a quote that you had that for a 10-year period after Illmatic dropped, it felt like every rapper was chasing Illmatic. On a cultural impact for me, it's hard to argue against Illmatic having the larger impact because of just what it meant, one, to New York, but what it meant to the culture. It became the gold standard for an album. I think it messed Nas up a little bit for a few years after that.
That sophomore, I mean, and here's the thing. Think about his sophomore album.
It was a good album.
If Illmatic didn't exist, we might be talking about his sophomore album as one of his best albums. Crazy.
Right. But we were like, it ain't Illmatic.
It ain't it. And no disrespect, but there was roughly probably 6,427 albums dropped between his debut album and his sophomore album. That wasn't Illmatic either. So it's fine.
But I will say, Ready to Die, had Biggie not been unalive, I think this would be a different conversation. Because I think the conversation, this is 94 and Biggie got unalived in what, early 97?
Yeah, almost 8 months after Pac, I believe.
Biggie only had 2 more years. He only had enough time to get one more album in And like, I know we're talking about the impact of these albums individually, but I don't think you can do that, because if Illmatic dropped and Nas didn't do anything else, like, this would be a different conversation. So the fact that Biggie wasn't here to finish his legacy,
Right.
I think this would have been, because if we'd have gotten Ready to Die and then Life After Death and then 2 or 3 more like that, like, this is a different conversation, because I agree with what you say. Biggie gave New York, actually Biggie gave rap something that it
Something
didn't
different.
have. Because Biggie was a dude that, while I wouldn't say he was number one in any particular category, he might have been top 5 in all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. He's one of those quarterbacks that he can make every throw. Like, the rap, as a rapper, Biggie he could make every throw as a rapper. He could play any position on the court. Whatever you needed him to do, he could do it. So I think if he hadn't been unalive, this would be a different conversation. But I'll have to go with Illmatic, just because people are still chasing Illmatic, and it's the 30th anniversary now. And they're still chasing.
Let's lock that again. Still. Like, Illmatic still, in 30 years, still might be top 5.
I can't put it out of the top 5.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Honestly, I'm scared to.
that's
because,
what's crazy, right?
Wait, when I say I'm scared not to put it in the top 5, I want to be clear. It's not that I'm scared of what other people will think. I'm scared of what that would mean for myself, that I had taken it out of the top 5. I don't know if I can trust myself anymore.
Yeah, I don't. If I take Illmatic out the top 5, you put it where you want to. For the sake of this argument, put it where you want to.
I won't argue with any spot on 1 through 5.
What replaces it in the 5? That's the question. Because if whatever you think could replace it in the 5 isn't already in the 5, it doesn't belong in the 5 anyway. That's the problem.
Like, if you're going to tell me you're taking Kobe out of the top 5 players ever, I need to know who's replacing it.
Correct. Because if he wouldn't have been in the top 5 with Kobe, how can he take Kobe out of the 5?
So let me switch it up a little bit and go to something a little more fun. A barbershop. Hey, I just want to have fun with this one, man. All right, so shop top 5s. Since we spent a lot of time talking about an album we said didn't need anything said about it, and Illmatic was also a debut album that became the greatest album ever almost immediately. So what I wanted to think about for this week's Shop Top 5 is the top 5 debut albums. Since we all know what I'm going to say number 1 is, I'm going to start from 1 and work my way down. I mean, number 1 is obviously Nas's Illmatic. I would be a fool after 45 minutes of conversation to not put it there. And I am a fool, but not that big a one. Number 2, for Chad's list, let's be clear, DMX's It's Dark and Hell is Hot. That album was what I've always said, 2 songs from being perfect. 2 songs from being a perfect album.
And 2 of the skits almost made up for that.
Damien itself almost made up for that.
And Crime Store.
Well, that's my number 2 is DMX's Dark and Hell is Hot. Number 3, I'm going to stay in New York. Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. I think there's an argument to make at this point that Reasonable Doubt might have been a better album on the whole than Illmatic, but I'm not going to start that fight on this show.
And now's not a good time to go with it. You don't want to down that sword today.
Nah, we spent too much time bigging up Illmatic for me to fight that fight today. But Reasonable Doubt, to me, is Jay's best album. I'm sorry, his second best album. But that is, I know it's not technically his debut, but let's go ahead and say for all intents and purposes, it's the birth of the Jay-Z we knew, not Hawaiian Sophie fame. We'll let it go at that. It's my list. I'll put it on there, damn it. Number 4, I'm going to switch over to the Midwest and go with Ye, College Dropout.
Higher.
Because from production, you would have put that one higher.
Fire.
Oh,
Fire.
Because I mean,
let's be
from production to how good each individual song was, that one's hard to fuck with, man.
This album is the only album I entertained the idea from production standpoint. This is what you better argue with me that you had for some reason at 6 that should be in the top 5. Why it wasn't in the top 5, I would probably not listen to you when you started the story because you said it wasn't in the top 5. But at least if it was 6, you said you was moving it into the 5, I might pay a little attention to you.
Yeah, the second one.
Boy, late registration.
He got close. All right, so my number 5, and I know a lot of y'all might not go with me on this one on number 5, but I'll explain to you a very specific reason why. Number 5, I went with MC Light, Light as a Rock.
Got you.
And I picked that for something that I said last week, in that MC Light dropped her debut album, A Female, in 1988, and she competed with BDP, BDK, Rakim, Straight Outta Compton, Public Enemy, and she still had a memorable album that year. And to be able to drop your debut album as a female in 88 amongst a completely male dominant roster and still stand out, not because you're a female, but because you were a damn good spitter, that is why I think that was one hell of a debut album. Because you came out in a draft class that had a lot talent in it, but you didn't get put on the end of the bench. So that's my 5, BA. Anybody you would have added to with a hot debut album?
I got 3, and I'll feed you, baby birds. Okay, I'll feed you,
I
baby
know some
birds.
of y'all mad.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I'll feed you, baby birds. I'm just gonna give the baby birds the big 3, and I'll just name which 3 it matters. Thank me later. In 2010, Light Skin did his thing. He did his thizzle with that album. Good Kid, Mad City. Yes, I know what came out before that, but it wasn't considered a studio album. So this is his debut album. And then, of course, arguably one of my favorite, and I was gonna just be petty and see it with a Lauryn Hill situation. I'll feed you, baby birds. Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday was fire. Plain and simple, fire.
Basically what we're saying is these are just our opinions.
Right.
And if you disagree with them, put yours down in the comments.
Just give us 5. Just give us 5.
Yeah, tell us who. No, I want to know. I mean, I really do. I like to see what other people think. I mean, don't call me an idiot and then put your 5 down there. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that. But if you just go, I disagree, here's my 5, I really like to respond to that.
Hey, let me clear. It is my opinion. But if you say Migos, Young Rich Nation, or Post Malone, Stoney, this wasn't the topic for you. Move on to the other topic.
And let me say something about it. At this age in my life, when I hear somebody say something silly, I am obligated by God to respond with a silly ass comment. So if you jump into comments and say, hey man, I disagree with y'all, here's my 5, I will have a conversation with you, a grown-up conversation with you. But if you jump in by comparing J. Cole to Tupac, I will do nothing but clown you for the rest of that conversation. It's just like the barbershop. If you say something smart in the barbershop, what does everybody do? But if you say something, you just pull something out of your ass.
You're getting roasted, bud. All you gonna hear is clippers turn off. People going, because ain't nobody trying to get nicked because they finna fire you up. So clippers come off, straight razors get pulled back, heads turn around, and they gonna go in order who gonna get you first. But before we move on topics, let me say this, because I feel remiss to not shout out Megan Thee Stallion's Good News. I only shout that album out because it's the one Megan Thee Stallion album I like. But it was a great debut album.
While we doing that, Alligator Bites Never Healed.
Don't she?
Won a Grammy for it.
Don't she? See, baby birds, we feed you. We give you new stuff. We don't only talk about old people stuff. We'll feed you, baby birds.
I'm sorry that all the people we like sound like classic rappers, but that's the best we can do for you. All right, moving on to the next part, Forgotten Kings and Queens. This time we decided to pick an underappreciated album from 1994 that flew under the radar, that should have got more credit than it did, but like we said, when Ready to Die gets put off for a few months, it's gonna be a tough year. Jeru the Damager, The Sun Rises in the East. And BA, I just want to say, I went back and listened to this one this weekend because it had been a while since I'd actually played it. Primo was in his bag.
This is why I keep saying that I don't care if it's the Source, the Grammys, the Soul Trains, Jet Magazine, Players Magazine. I don't care who it is, but we need to really start giving out awards for production. We need to start giving out I Am Hip Hop Awards, Lifetime Achievements, Jazzy Jeff, Primo, Alchemist, Scott Storch. Well, they've done what they've done for the longevity.
It's easy to ignore producers.
Easy, because you just think beats just make themselves. I mean, now they kind of do. But before then, like, you had to actually do work, like, to make a full beat. You had to play something, then record it, then hold it, then play something else, then try to blend it, then cut it.
You had to get the verse completely right.
Right, yeah. Like, then you had to get it on time, and you can't just push a button, then push another button. You know what I'm saying? It's fine.
But also, remember when I said that there's a difference between hip hop and rap? Well, Jeru the Damager is a hip hop artist.
Completely.
And boom bap again in this album, because I am a boom bap fan. I absolutely love the boom bap era. If you are a hip hop fan and this is an album that you didn't listen to because it got buried, or you haven't listened to it in a long time, I really recommend you do, because Jeru goes through a lot of different topics on this. He gets conscious in some, he gets street in some, he gets introspective in some. Like, it's a complete album, and you don't see a lot of albums that are just complete. So if you're down for complete albums, I say go check this one out. That is a forgotten album from 1994, because it just got buried with all that other stuff. I mean, you look at just the 3 albums, Illmatic, Ready to Die, and Southernplayalistic Music, and the G-Funk era beginning, like, it is going to be hard to make noise with all that going on. Go back and give Jeru a shot. We're going to talk a little bit of a few things that are going on. Not a whole lot happening in hip-hop recently, but Cardi B's album is out. It's her second studio album, and it features big features like Janet Jackson, Lizzo, Megan Thee Stallion, and more. I am not the biggest fan of Cardi B's music. I like Cardi B as a person because she just does not give a fuck. And I think that is, I love that.
Yeah.
I like her as a person, but I'm interested to see how she does after the long layoff. Like, she's had a lot of drama going on in her life, and it's been a while since she's dropped, right?
Yeah. Like,
yeah, so
in career moves, it's been a minute. I'm like you, I'm anxious to see how the album plays out, but I like the fact there's a lot of female collabs on it. It feels very empowering that way. But to be honest, out of everybody on here, I've never seen a Janet Jackson kind of collab for Cardi B coming. I think her and Lizzo might make great music, because Lizzo is she's able to kind of meld into various lanes. She could be femme fatale, she could be a little over-sexual, but she could also be fun. She could always kind of get in that party lane too. So I'm interested in that, but I can't wait to hear the Janet Jackson joint. Like, I just want to see what that turned out to be.
In other news, another album, Mobb Deep's final album, Infinite, is scheduled for release on October 10 of 2025, and it includes posthumous vocals from Prodigy. Anytime you get vocals from someone who's passed away, I always think that is super impactful, and I love that. They're not always the best verses because they weren't published, and usually your best verses are published, but it's always super special for big fans to get to hear that again. I'm excited for Mobb Deep fans because I know this should mean something to them, so I hope this album gets the credit it deserves. And finally, something you told me about, but something that is interesting as hell, is on September the 15th, Pusha T and No Malice performed at the Vatican, joined by Pharrell and John Legend. I said the Vatican.
You heard what he said. Speak up.
This was the first time rappers performed at the Vatican, historic for the genre and the culture. The set included gospel-infused arrangements blending spirituality, soul, and rap in the sacred place. Rap has made it to the Vatican, y'all. And not only rap, Pusha T to meet the Pope. That is why I love rap. That's what I'm talking about.
Hello.
That'll do it for us, y'all. We appreciate y'all hanging in there. Appreciate the community. Bring those comments. Anytime you disagree with us, feel free to put your list down in there. Tell us what we got wrong. Tell us who you love, because we love the same hip hop y'all do, and we like hearing the conversation, y'all. Thanks for being there. Thanks for being from everywhere from the U.S. to the U.K. all the way down to Australia. Big salute to you guys who are out of the country and still find the time to listen to us. We love y'all to death. I'm your man, Chad. That's the OG, Big Absoloot. We'll catch y'all next time.
Kick ass!